So once again, we have Jesus talking about the dilemma between material goods and the kingdom of heaven. If Jesus talks about something quite a bit, then we may assume that it is important, all right? Kind of the same way that you hear him say, Amin, amin, lego amin, 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 I say to you, it means this is important, let's pay attention. Equally so, when he says, or he repeats certain lessons, it is for us to take it with us. So in this particular one, he talks about this rich man. And again, we're not supposed to take out of this that being rich is bad. But what we are supposed to take out of this are two very important words. He says, anthropos dinos plusios. So a rich man, dialogizeto. So we have the word logismi. So this is to think and to ponder something, okay? To think about something, all right? Now, in Orthodoxy, we also use this term in somewhat of a negative sense. When we talk about the logismi, we talk about pondering in thought that is not healthy, that is not spiritually healthy. And this is what we have him doing here. He is now surrounded by this logismi in his head, okay? And he says, I've got a lot of material things. So, what should I do with this material wealth? And so where does his thinking go? His thinking goes internally, and it says, I know what I'll do. I will take down my barns, and I will build others that are larger so that I can put more of my stuff in it. All right? Which, to some extent, reminds me of my father's garage. The larger you make the garage, the more stuff my father will put in it. Here, he continues to say, wow, I've done pretty well for myself. I have stored up well, and now I should do what? I should faye, biye, ephranio. Eat, drink, and be merry. I mean, we've all heard those terms before. So God says to him, right? I mean, and here the text is very strong because the word that is used is aphron. All right. Remember that in Greek, any time that we put, or not any time, but most of the time when we put in an alpha in front of the word, it negates what is the word, or or the verb or the noun, whatever it is. So it is aphron, and that comes from phroneo or phronema. So we've all in modern Greek heard the idea of to have a phronema. The Greeks have a phronema, the Scots have a phronema. But if we look at the original intent of this term, it speaks to our mind. It speaks to how we think. So how we dialogizome, how it is that we consider these things. Okay, so an improper phronema is one where we focus on the material and ourselves. A proper phronema is when we consider what is God's will and what it is that we should do. And in fact, St. Paul helps us with this because in Romans he says, those who live according to the flesh, again, material things, set their minds. So in this case, they're translated phronema into mind. Phronema has a deeper meaning than just mind, but they set themselves on things of the flesh. If you live according to the flesh, that's what you think. That's where your mind goes. But to set the mind on the Spirit is life in peace. And that's huge. Because many of us who have chased where our phronema has been for the material things, we have found that there is never enough. I must have more. Better house, better car, more money in the bank, more restaurants, more ice cream shops, whatever it is that you've got. So our thoughts go there. Our thoughts, unfortunately, then cannot go to peace, where we can be at peace with ourselves. Okay? For the mind that is set on the flesh is hostile towards God, meaning that we turn our backs on what brings us true peace. And for those who are living in the flesh cannot please God. So St. Paul takes that word phronema and puts it in its proper context, which is how we consider what kind of mind we have and where that's attached. And so in this gospel reading, God calls out to us when we focus too much on the material, and he says, aphron, you who have set your mind against God, and the scriptures translated it into fool, but it doesn't carry the weight of what's happening here. I can be a fool, but still give good money away. In fact, they call, if you read in the books of the saints, they call them the holy fools. So that's the word that they use, aphron. Okay, but not in the negative sense. They use that term holy fool because all of their efforts are focused just on God. So in that case, it has a good connotation. So this gospel reading calls us to ask, what is our phronema? Is our phronema directed towards the material that can be hostile to God and not give us peace? Or is our phronema directed to what is the will of God so that we use the gifts that God has given us for their true purpose? And through that, peace will come. I say that because you, as you've heard me say before, and Jesus has said many times, you will suffer. There's no getting around it. You will suffer. So what Christ brings to us is the peace to know how to suffer properly. And if you can't get that phronema, then your life is going to be painful, without peace, and you will see suffering as hostile to you, which is what brings out the idea of, oh God, why have you done this to me? That's aphron. Phronema, correct, is I understand that there is suffering, but now what is your will for this suffering that I am going through? Difficult lesson, I get it. But at the same time, Christ calls us to these very difficult lessons.